Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot for April 24th. So there's a couple of things that I want to take a look at, but two little pieces of housekeeping first. I want to thank all of my new subscribers and of course my established ones for the incredible support that you guys are giving not only Soulprint Tarot but also the Soulprint Insights channel. That's been fabulous. Hello Ellie, can I help you? Get down. Sorry. Well, that's a good way to completely lose your train of thought. Thank you. It really it's just very special to me, and I'm very grateful for the support. So thank you. The second thing I want to do is I want to give a shout out to a new tarot channel by, his name is Danny Shay, S-H-A-Y. And the name of his channel is Bathrobe Tarot, because he says he does most of his readings in the morning when he's still in his bathrobe. So that's like an awesome title. I checked him out and I like him. He has a sort of conversational style, no drama. He's easy to listen to. He's laid back. So if you are so inspired, check out Bathroom Tarot by Danny Shay. He's doing he's brand new, so let's build him up, okay? That's what we do here. We support. Okay. So there's a couple things I want to take a look at today. I'm going to start with Trump and how he's doing, because he is becoming, like, honestly more erratic. I mean, now he's just lashing out at people. He's not even attempting or pretending to be nice to the reporters anymore. He's not even pretending that the fact that there are, there's just information out there. Look, he flew out already, right? There's information out there that completely contradicts everything he says, and it's starting, I think, to get under his skin. So I'm going to start by taking a look at Trump and seeing where he's at right now. Okay, and you're hearing the cats because it's sunny and beautiful outside with incredible blue skies, and they're feeling quite hard done by because they're just not allowed to run free. So hopefully that's not making any of your dogs bark. Come on down. All right, so Trump current state, Trump current state, Trump current state. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, so this is literally talking about other parts of the government. So could this be Nancy Pelosi? Could this be Chuck Schumer, or even perhaps Mitch McConnell, although, we'll see. But the energy that I'm getting just right off the top is that they are starting, other government arms, if you will, are really, really starting to seriously push back against some of the rhetoric coming out of those mini rallies that go on every afternoon. So and they're really showing what's happening now is the two sides, okay, the truth, and then Trump and what he talks about and cares about and goes on and on about. And what's happening is the average everyday person is starting to say, wait a minute. We have a president who completely disavows science. We have a president who is pushing a drug that is now proven to actually not help people with the virus, but it does seem to give them heart attacks. And other health problems. I think there's also problems with kidney failure. So, this is kind of the thing, right? People are starting to wake up. as you have states like Georgia, and whoever else, Nebraska, I think, who just simply do not even have a stay-at-home order. They want everything reopened. That mayor from Las Vegas yesterday, I saw a clip with her and Anderson Cooper. And she's like, well, I just want everything to open up, but it's not my responsibility to make it safe. That's the responsibility of the hotel owners and the club owners and the restaurants. It's not mine. I just want everything to open. Like this kind of insanity, right? And of course, the people of Las Vegas are pushing back because they're saying, you know what, we're not going to be your guinea pigs, for God's sakes. Like you are literally, putting us in serious danger with this talk. So what you're starting to see now is this sort of pushback against, frankly, a lot of the stuff that he used to see as his strength, the things that used to work for him. And he's having a little bit of trouble with the fact that they're honestly kind of not working for him right now. And that's making it very difficult for him. Poor thing. He's trying to find his balance again. And honestly, I don't think he understands is that he is so off balance that it's no small matter for him to even find some sort of equilibrium, because I'm pretty sure that that's actually not a state that he functions in, right? I mean, he functions in chaos. And, it's an interesting thing because the more you watch him, the more you really start to recognize that part of the attraction for him when it comes to creating chaos all around him is, in a lot of ways, it really is the biggest distraction, right? If he's got people running around like chickens with their heads cut off, and nothing stays consistent or the same for like more than a nanosecond, what happens is nobody's paying attention to him, right? And so nobody's actually stopping to figure out what the guy is or isn't doing. And this was a strategy that worked well for him for like a long, long time. And he's now figuring out that strategy isn't working so well for him. And he really, really doesn't seem to have a grip on how to find another strategy because, as I've said 100 times before, this guy is a one-trick pony. Now, there are some things that are really scaring him. Okay, so now, as you know, this has become, the Ace of Swords has become my card for Joe Biden, okay? That's really concerning him, and there have been sort of a lot of ads released by the Biden campaign, really addressing the incompetence with which Trump is managing this crisis. And so those are starting to get under his skin. He's also getting really wound up and concerned about court decisions that are going to be made or documents that are going to be released. There's a lot of agitation around him, particularly with these two topics. So the harder he tries to get himself out of trouble, the more trouble he gets into, because he has no impulse control, right? He just lashes out and screams and says whatever is rambling around in that, empty attic of a brain of his. And so what you have is somebody who is sort of, again, with Trump, I seem to consistently get that image of, the car stuck in the mud and that back tire going around and around and around and around, but it's not going anywhere. That's sort of what's around him right now. Is he can't figure out a way to get out. And he sees two things. He sees that this situation keeps on growing. It's bizarre, I will grant you, that the Empress card is, in this particular reading, kind of signifying the virus, but it really, I'm sorry, it is. And it's showing that this thing is going to continue to grow, multiply. And he's starting to recognize that sort of, the idea that, and this is appalling to say, but the idea that if this virus takes out kind of the old and the handicapped and the disabled, those are all people who drain the system. They don't really contribute to it. So really, is it that big a deal if a bunch of people die who aren't sort of multimillionaires and contributing to the system? And they're certainly not sort of the young ones who the millionaires take advantage of to keep on making their millions and billions. So he's starting to figure out, though, that this is really, really coming back to slap him in the butt because people aren't liking it. I mean, the total disregard for care facilities, nursing homes, the VA. I mean, there are horror stories coming out about the VA. So he's starting to reap basically what he sowed, right? He just didn't think it was going to be that big a deal because, it was going to get rid of those people who were draining the system. And of course, Trump equates everything to money. Everything to money. So for him, if you're not making money for the country, well, then you're costing the country money and he doesn't really want you around. And that's horrifying, but it's starting to backlash on him now. Because again, it's one thing if you're living in, I don't know, Boston or New York or Los Angeles, Miami, but a lot of people in the heartland, they are in smaller cities, smaller counties and communities. And so those situations that are going on in care facilities, in seniors' residences, they are close to home. This is happening in their community and their neighborhood. And even if they think Trump is better than sliced bread, they're starting to look at the rising death toll and the rising infection numbers. And they're starting to see that this guy truly does not have a plan. Because as far as he is concerned, if he can't take direct credit for something, well, it's somebody else's responsibility because it sure as heck is not his. And they're starting to recognize that and see that. And I think that what you're going to see, I mean, apparently his approval rating has dropped like 6 points in the last, I think it was sort of this time in March. So I want to say like the last 4 weeks or so. And again, think back 4 weeks ago, right? That was around the time that really the whole virus thing started getting a lot of attention, a lot of airplay. And, he was out there telling his story about how he's done a fabulous job and the country's going to beat this thing and it's all going to be great. And so here we are a month later and people are coming out of their illusions. They're coming out of, they're seeing more clearly. The things that he was very busy obscuring are starting to actually break open. And people can see, frankly, that he doesn't have a handle on this and nobody else does. And he keeps on trying to get rid of the very people who ultimately would make him look good in the long run if it was his scientists and his people, like not his people, because his people are all kind of fools, but I like the agencies. If they were the ones to come up with the treatment or the vaccine, that would really look good on him. Except he's so self-centered and so self-focused that he just is trying to hang on to what he has, and he doesn't see that for his supporters, the burden literally of holding this guy up and propping him up is getting harder and harder and harder to do because everything that comes out of his mouth, frankly, is a lie, right? Don't expect his perceptions to change, right? And it would be wonderful if they did, but don't expect that. And expect that there's going to be increased emotional responses, and I want to say really on both sides of the scale. So he's going to become more of what he already is. And people who have been silent or quiet or quietly supporting him, you're going to start getting information that they aren't so much supporting him anymore. And they're quietly trying to pull back. And so he's at this point, he really seems to be in a state where he's incapable of finding balance, and he's starting to recognize it with more clarity that actually this could end his presidency. And those governors who are jumping to do his bidding and trying to reopen their states are literally making a deadly mistake. And because they're making a deadly mistake, he is going, oh my goodness, he is going, hang on. Wow, talk about frisky felines around here. He's starting to actually realize that this really, really could significantly damage his ability to win a second term. And so that's kind of where it's at with him. I kind of expect that there's going to be some really bad news kind of coming his way, whether the poll numbers continue to tank, whether he gets blindsided by information that comes from outside of the country, whether there are more and more reporters doing what they do and doing it well, except if they work for Fox and they're talking heads. There's some reporters at Fox, I guess, that are okay. I don't watch the station. But he's starting to have, as kind of nutty as this sounds, as kind of out of control as he is, there is a part of him that's actually starting to understand that he is in really big trouble now. And so again, it's like I said yesterday or the day before, whatever video I did, it was, I said, this is what he does. He bitches, he bullies, and then what was it? Bitch, bully, demand, I think. So he's sticking to, he's sticking to pattern, okay? This literally is representing the big stick that he keeps trying to wield from that bully pulpit. He keeps trying to change the dialogue and spin things, and it's not working for him, and this appears to be the result. And it's going to be uncomfortable and unpleasant and frankly really bad for Republicans who have stood by his side or worse, quietly enabled him. And they're not going to actually be able to say a way out. They're not, because he has so monopolized the conversation that if you have an R after your name, you are now pretty much painted with the same broad brushstrokes. And there are some Republicans out there who are doing a really good job. There's some Republican governors out there who are doing a good job. But once something gets maligned and smeared like that, it's really hard to pull back on that, okay? So he's dealing with a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry, a lot of everything, and you can just anticipate, you're literally going to be able to see in the coming weeks, you're literally him just coming unraveled in really, really public ways. And of course, because his ego is so involved in everything he does, he's not going to be willing or wanting to let go, right? He's going to just hang on for the sake of hanging on. So I want to take a look at the Koch brothers, okay? People have been asking if the Koch brothers are behind the protests. People want to know if those people were like legitimate or more paid actors. And I want to see what's going on with them. Now, really, we got to kind of stop saying Koch brothers, because David Koch passed away in 2019. And so really that just leaves Charles as sort of, I guess, the Koch brother. I don't know what extended family, is working with him or is part of the organizations, but I want to take a look at sort of what's going on with them in relation to Trump's behavior and what they think about that, and what they sort of are prepared or frankly might not be prepared to back and put up with. So let's take a look at, I think we're going to break this down to, let's do this. Let's do Charlie Koch Trump, Charlie Koch Trump, Charlie Koch Trump. Okay. All right. So when he was elected, there was dancing in the streets. They were celebrating because not only was he pliable, right? So you could kind of pretty much talk him into anything, or seeing anything sort of the way you wanted him to see it. But, they understood that on a basic fundamental level, he was really out to make big business even more successful than they already are. I mean, that was, if he had any kind of agenda, that was certainly part of it, because of course he sees himself as that great big affluent important businessman, of which we're pretty sure he's not, but he wants to be in league with them, and he thinks everything is about money, so he thinks everybody else thinks everything is about money, and he was just out to make their lives like really, really easy. And so they were really delighted with him until the shenanigans started. Okay, you have the 5 and 6 of swords sitting side by side. So it's talking about the fact that even for them, he was really crossing over lines. He was, instead of trying to sort of play nice and quietly make shifts and changes, he was out front, he was boasting, he was bragging, he was antagonizing everybody, he insisted on shouting in front of that helicopter, and so they're not as impressed as they used to be with this guy, or that is certainly the energy. And this really does look like, I would not be surprised if you end up hearing that it's not that the Koch family is going to completely withdraw their support from Trump, but I would not be at all surprised to find out that they are less enthusiastic about who they're supporting. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to go Democrat. They're going to continue to support Republicans down the ballot, okay? But I think you're actually, and it's not going to be a big, huge public thing, but once the donations sort of start rolling in, I mean, they're already rolling in, and once they, start becoming public, right, you're going to, if you actually crunch the numbers, I suspect that what you're going to find is they're not being quite as generous as they were last time around. This is the thing about people like the Koch brothers, okay? They like it best when they are allowed to basically function behind the scenes, almost in, obscurity, right? Where you can't really see what they're doing. You're not quite sure. It all goes on quietly behind the scenes. They don't like it when they become sort of front page news and things start getting scrutinized, because it's uncomfortable for them. It puts them in a position of having to justify why they are backing somebody who behaves the way he does. And you know, is the fact that you're backing them a reflection of what you yourself think? And so it's putting them in like kind of not a good situation. And they also recognize that there is no balance with this guy, right? There is no way to keep him stable. He is just he's a loose cannon, and worse, he's like a really dangerous loose cannon. And so again, they're tempering their response to him because they understand that he has no temperance within himself. So it kind of interesting, right? Because I don't know that this is what I was expecting. I think I was expecting that they're going to, you know, quietly be banging the drums for him and maybe just keep trying to publicly recede. But it feels like, to some degree, they're actually pulling away from him a little bit. Now, he, big companies, big corporations, they understand the impact of this slowed down and almost frozen economy. And they really want to be able to kind of force the worker bees to just do what needs to be done and get on with it because, you know, we need to start making money again. But you know what? They're really not getting that result. I mean, you've got a few red states that are really looking at this the wrong way. But so people like the Koch brothers, people like those big corporations, they actually are starting to recognize that they are being backed into a corner by this thing. And they are being backed into a corner by the very people that they expected to simply comply. And they're not about complying anymore because you know what? People around them are getting really, really sick and people around them are dying and they don't really like it very much. So you know, as much as there is a lot of concern about loss of revenue, loss of money, et cetera, you know, and I mean, let's not forget the Koch brothers are I think they're the second largest privately held company in the United States. So their assets are many and varied, and a lot of their assets kind of are in their pockets, if you know what I mean. Like, yep, they put money back into the companies because that's what they need to do. But they also have a lot of those assets hidden or tucked away or, you know, whatever they do with them. But so they're not going to be hit quite as hard. Yeah, you know what? I just really see a little bit of pullback from Trump, not from the Republican Party. And I think that that's ultimately not going to bear a lot of fruit for them. This is too big, and the Republicans are doing such a horrendous job by and large that there isn't a way to make this better. And frankly, there isn't enough time for the pain and the agony and the horror of what is being experienced to dissipate. So maybe they get a pass come November. It's not going to be gone by then, and it's still going to be something that the average person globally is dealing with in some way or fashion. And so people are not going to be forgiving and forgetting. He really Trump has really put himself in an incredibly precarious situation. And by extension, he has put the Koch brothers or the Koch family in a position of needing to backpedal a little bit on sort of the really vocal support of him. So let's talk quickly about the protests. It is possible that there was funding that went into those protests. because I mean, that's kind of what they do, right? And again, remember, it is always to their advantage if they can force people back to work so that they get up and running again, so that they continue to increase their revenue. So, they want people, the average working man and woman, to think that there's not a big deal, and we're being, our livelihood is being stripped from us, and we need to push back against this. So there is some of that going on. Some of it is that, I'm sorry to say this, but some people are just sort of undereducated, and they're not aware of the true facts, because they're getting very, very skewed information from the news outlets that they are watching, or the papers they are reading in some cases. So, but ultimately, this is what happens, right? Not only do they get stabbed in the back, but so do the people who were trying to manipulate them. So the swords in this case really represents two different factors. One is the people who are protesting, who are now ridiculously exposed to the virus with no protection, and the people who were behind it and backing it and encouraging it. That is also not going to play well for them, because this is the thing. Eventually, the truth comes out, news comes out, we find out stuff. And when that happens, it doesn't put the people who back that kind of behavior in a really good light. Now, speaking of newspaper people and media people, I got a really lovely request from one of my viewers in Switzerland. And she is a viewer of MSNBC, as I'm sure a lot of us are. And she asked if we could do a positive energy circle for Rachel Maddow. Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure that Rachel is empathic to some degree. And you can just see when you watch her that this is becoming harder and harder on her to sort of keep her rage and her indignation kind of contained. So this Sunday, for the Soulprint Positive Energy Circle, we are going to be focusing on media people with a little bit of extra for Rachel. So I really hope that you join me for that, so that the people who are out there, whether they are on television or in newspapers or on blogs, wherever they're getting the truth out and they're investigating the truth, we want to send them some extra support so they can keep on doing it. We have the advantage of being able to turn off the television or scream at the television and call him nasty names. They can't. They have to maintain that professional objectivity. And you got to think that's taking a hell of a toll on them. So please, if you are all interested, join us on Sunday for the Positive Energy Circle. I think it's time for us to blast out some really good positive energy for those people who are working really hard to keep us informed. And frankly, that applies to the media people in every country around the globe who are fighting the hard fight to get the information out there. So that's Sunday. Until then, and until next time, thank you again for your support. Take care, be well, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.